Episode 423 of the Too Thick Pod, your home for all things sports, cards, and levity. I am joined by my good friend Manny. I don't even introduce myself anymore. I just want to get right to Manny. He's handsome. He's smiling. He's kind of clean cut. Manny, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you? And I'm not the handsome one. You are the handsome one, my friend. And welcome to Too Thick with meat sticks and tummy sweats. We are live with the best producer ever, Courtney. And without Courtney, there's no Too Thick. So everyone shout out Too Thick. And also a special guest today. I've known him. We were talking about this earlier, probably since like 2019, but starting to get to really know him this year. And I'm honored to have gotten to know you, see you at every show that I'm at, and you're crushing it. Mr. Brad, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very much for the invite, and glad to join.
You know, I saw a picture of Brad 2-3 years ago, right before when he met you, Manny. Full head of hair, looked 15, 20 years younger, and then you started harassing him at card shows, and you had the same impact on Brad than me. Just like the hair goes, you start to look a little worse. But Brad, we appreciate you jumping on. We're truly thankful because what we try to do is, provide like some serious feedback and like a true perspective of what's taking place at the shows that we're seeing. We all know that social media can kind of be BS sometimes. People are seriously influenced by whether it's card porn or big time influencers. And so we like to talk to the people who are truly in the trenches. And as Manny said, you've been in this game a long time. Anywhere I go where there's a card show, you're there, like kind of just BSing. Your wife's doing all the hard work, wheeling and dealing, keeping you in line. And shout out to her. I know she can't be here, but what Courtney is to Reckless, I think that's what she is to Hollister, and I think you'd agree. But appreciate you jumping on, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll echo your sentiment there. Kai she runs 90% of our table. That's what makes us successful, because I can go out and I can hit all the other tables, whether it's connecting and building some relationships or buying to then bring other stuff back to our table, whether it's for this exact same show or maybe it's a future show. So we wouldn't be here where we're at right now without what Kai does, both at the home with sorting cards and getting them ready, and then also running the table. She does it a ton. So
she's also just like the sweetest person.
She is.
I can't, she's never not smiling. She's always is just like, she lights up the show. Every time you walk into Shipshawana, and she's like the first person you see, and she's always just like so cheerful. And it's the same at Avery's. Every time I see her, she's just a ray of sunshine.
When I saw that, Courtney, I thought that was just because she would see me and she would go, I have Stranger Things cards. And then the smile was because she knew I was a sucker, and whatever price tag was on those bad boys, I was going to be buying them for you. So you're telling me even when she's not taking my money, she's happy and smiley and kicking ass?
Oh yeah, she's an excellent salesperson. There's no doubt about that. But
yes, she is.
We actually, I've been asked before if we are as happy at home as we are at card shows, and the answer is 100% yes. We are not any different at shows than we are at home, and that's why I think we have a good balance. We work together 7 days a week, and it's easy. I don't know why it's so easy sometimes, but it is very, very easy to be with her and to work with her and to love her also,
Oh my God, I'm showing you guys.
It's because, he's saying this because Jeremy is right. She's working the tables, and I always see him in the dollar boxes looking through the cards, trying to get the best deal. So I do respect the hustle, and I do appreciate her hard work. I know she's probably sleeping right now, but when she's watching this, thank you for letting Brad come on the podcasts.
How was the Avery show for you, Brad?
It was awesome. I actually rewatched the last episode that you had where you were talking to Dennis about the last show. And I have to say it's the best show in Michigan. And I mean that from the top to the bottom, because buyers can truly go to this show and find whatever they're looking for. Maybe not the specific card, but if you're looking for extremely high end, you can find that. If you're looking for, Manny gave away my secrets, but if you're looking for the best dollar boxes, you can find great dollar boxes. And there's, I can't believe how big the amount of Pokemon dealers there are, and maybe some of the non-sports too. There's a couple non-sport dealers that are so solid. I go see them every time because they have brand new stuff. So great show. We always set up an 8-foot table there because we know we're going to have a significant amount of competition when we go to that show. But I go there specifically to buy. I mean, I'm out the whole day. I know you guys probably see me making the laps, and that's one of my favorite buying shows now, right up there with the Shipshewanas, Chicago's, Johnny Ford, all that stuff. So, one of our favorite shows. We try not to miss that.
I think one thing that Dennis spoke about, and I don't know if you caught this, Brad, is one thing that he's been toying with the idea of doing like a monthly TCG Pokemon show, and because we've seen more and more of that, and it was one of those things that I never really paid attention to. I would notice the Pokemon guys, but as me and Manny have been learning more about TCG and dabbling in that space, it's one of those things where you see it everywhere. And at this show specifically, there's a lot of non-sporting cards there.
Yeah, a ton. And I think that's a really positive that this show has that a lot of other ones don't. Like maybe you go to another show and it's a 50 to 100 table show, and maybe there's a handful of dealers, right? And at the Lansing show, there's a significant amount of dealers, and they have a ton of traffic. I was just watching that some of the times where I was on my break back at the table, and they were some of the busiest tables. Significant traffic the whole day. So it's great.
We have a Pokemon group that sets up next to us like every show, and it never stops at their table. Those guys are like lively, like they're always laughing, they're loud, they're having a great time, and it looks like they do a tremendous business. So the TCG market is something that we're like new to. So I've been trying to dip my toes in, and it's fun seeing a show where there's such a diverse amount of cards.
I absolutely agree with that.
The only cards that aren't there, and Jeremy and I realized it quick, is soccer cards. But since we last on Saturday, we had people coming up asking where are our soccer cards, because we didn't bring them this time. So maybe we're going to have to start bringing them because the people were asking for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing is if you have those type of cards, maybe you're one of the few dealers that has them, and you start building that following with that, and then maybe other dealers latch on. So,
So you've been coming to this show a lot longer than us, Brad. Was this the biggest one to date?
I think at least in terms of size and the amount of dealers, it seemed like it was. I was amazed as I walked down the mall towards like the food court, and that's the first time I felt like it was there in that quantity of tables, probably in about a year now. And I know part of that is because they moved all the tables to the one area, which I love. But it was an amazing amount of people and of dealers. I couldn't believe it. I didn't get through all the tables, and I don't know if anybody really did, truly, unless it's a really quick lap. So yeah, it was an amazing show.
And that liar Dennis said that he wasn't going to go all the way to the food court. And the next show, I was walking, I was like, you know what, just keep going. Wait a minute, it keeps going. Dennis was like, we'll never be in the middle of the mall. Next show in the middle of the mall. So it is expanding. I don't know how much he wants to expand. He was trying to be technical with me. He's like, oh, no, I meant like around the corner. I was like, yeah, next show it's probably gonna be around the corner, Dennis.
He's not on this time to defend himself.
So that's why I said that's what I'm saying.
He has got a fat lipper right now listening to Manny, and he's MFing you to the moon, Manny. So what was moving at your table, Brad? I know that you're out, you're like looking for bargains, you're out going through the boxes, you're networking. What's the feedback? What kind of success are you having at this show? What are you selling? What's in demand? What can people learn by listening to a legend in the game like one Brad Hollister?
We do a ton of low end there. So the $2 to $10 stuff moves very well for us there. We always put a couple display cases out. We move a ton of, Michigan State Spartans, Michigan Wolverines, autographs, recent stuff. But I really feel like we've seen a little bit of a shift in the last 6 months, probably, where, lower end, it's never gone away, but I feel like that's picked up a little bit. But like I said at the beginning, the high end at this show is really become second to none. There's some dealers that show up, with absolute, just monsters in the cases, and we don't really, we don't try to keep up with that type of stuff, but we do have some better stuff. I saw Dennis just commented. Hopefully he wasn't yelling at me. So, but yeah,
he was yelling at Manny.
Okay, you got Manny.
So I've always argued that some of these shows, and I think Burbank did a really good job of it. They had people set up that you could go get in line and they're going to buy your cards, essentially no matter what. And it keeps the show moving. It makes it so if you have to get liquid, you can. Mm-hmm. I would argue that for a show to be successful, you have to have dealers that play in that $5 to $50 range. That the lower level collector or an entry level or somebody who just doesn't have a bankroll that just wants to thumb through and find players that they like to have a good experience. If we all have 6 and 7 figure cards in our showcase, it's probably not a very good show. It's probably just like a lot of standing around. It just becomes a giant, not a good time
contest.
Yeah. Well, and we saw that a little bit. I'm sure you guys would all agree as the market started to change, 2 years ago ish. You started to see a lot of the people that had the same high end cards all the time, and people didn't have the money. Maybe it was a year and a half ago or so, but you started to see some of the transition, even with the larger dealers, to the lower end, because everybody can afford $10 that's coming to a show, but not everybody can afford $1,000 every time they go to a show. So I think it's great to have the variety that the Lansing show has from top to bottom, because you're right. You get in, a perfect example. I went to the Chantilly show last month, and it was very, very high end stuff. And the value boxes were, in my opinion, not good at all. And that was one time. So I'm not going to paint that as a horrible show for buying low end, but it was tough to find the deals that I can do at Lansing, which is an hour away. So, but it's a learning experience. That's where we're trying to get out more and check some of these other shows out too.
Do you bring your repacks to Lansing? I can't remember.
Yeah.
If how do they do there?
We move, some shows will move 5 repacks in a day. And then there's other shows like Shipshewana or Johnny Ford where we literally can't bring enough, where we'll move over 100 at Shipshewana in 12 hours or in 24 hours.
Can you talk about what your repacks are for people who don't know?
Sure. So it was an idea that my friend Tom Nielsen and I had a couple years ago, actually 2 years for the Memorial Day show in Shipshewana. That's where we debuted them. So 2-year anniversary coming up. We'll do something special for that for sure. And we started to think, like, at that time you couldn't find wax, or it was very difficult to find. And we wanted to start making stuff for entry-level collectors, kids, and families. Something that somebody could come up to us with a $20 bill and be able to buy a repack and actually enjoy it, not open it and just throw it all in the trash. So we had the ideas to not put a bunch of junk 89 Topps baseball in them. The worst cards that you get are superstar base cards. And then the majority of them are refractors, serial numbered, Hall of Famers, autographs, relics, slabs. And then it just kind of took off. And it was always one of those things where I said, I'll continue to make these until people don't want them. And now we know we're going to continue to make these forever. It's one of those things where you might have some peaks and valleys, but we sell them consistently, no matter where we're at.
Well, I see
you donated some to the kids scavenger hunt at Shipshewana. That was how I found out about them, and the kids loved them. So that was it was super cool.
Yep. Thank you. And we were glad to help.
That's what I was gonna say. I see those packages everywhere at
Yes.
some shows. I'm like, I look over and there's like 5 kids just opening these packs, and I'm like, this is awesome. You could just see like the enjoyment of their face, like kind of like when me and Jeremy actually sell a card for profit. We get the same excitement. So.
Don't you lump me in with you. Do not lump me in with you. I don't want that juju anywhere near me, man. You know, we've been trying to step up the content game, Brad. And so what we've been doing is as we buy cards, we're putting them off to the side. And this show, I swear 1 hour into the show, we had sold about half of our showcases. So then it became like, hurry up and buy, sticker it and get it back out and keep it moving. And do you ever run into a situation where you have so much activity at your table that it's like overwhelming and daunting? You're like, what the hell? Because that's kind of how it felt at this show, where it was like there was so many incredible buying opportunities, and I'm like, it's weird because like you go because you want to sell cards, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm selling too many cards. It's like the weirdest dynamic. I can't. You probably understand what I'm saying. I'm doing a poor job of explaining it.
No, I totally understand it. We've had those type of days where we show up. We perfect example of Shipshawana. We showed up, put some stuff out at trade night. It's one of those things. If it sells, it sells, right? And we sold so much, it was one of those things where it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like that minor freak out, where you sell a whole box of something, and you're like, okay, I have nothing to put in that space. And we have a very, very good following at the Shipshawana show. We've been there since the beginning. We have the repacks, which draw a lot of people to our table, and that's one of those shows where we never feel like we're 100% prepared. We know what could happen. Yeah. Brad just commented. So yeah. Hey, Brad.
Oh, it's like the Batman light into the sky or something.
Yep. You say Avery, Dennis shows up. You say, Shipshawana, all of a sudden Brad's here.
I ain't talking anything. I'm not saying anything bad about a card show. I'm gonna get. They're gonna be in the comments. No. What kind of like stuck with me, and we kind of had a talk. It was probably like 2 shows ago in the Lansing Avery show. You were saying, because you like the dollar boxes, but you don't get enough time to actually go through them. But you realize that these kids are really savvy, that you want to hire kids at the Lansing show to go through dollar boxes just to buy for you.
Sure.
And that's how much traffic is at this show.
Yep.
And it's crazy because like you think about it, it's a mall. Like we told Dennis the last show, that weekend is probably the most traffic that mall sees every month.
100% agree.
Did you guys see the guys with the food carts walking around?
Yeah.
Dennis told me, he's like, I told them, you guys are stupid. Go make some money. And the next thing I know, I'm buying cupcakes off of a cart from a guy walking around. I'm like, this is brilliant. I don't even have to go all the way down to the food court, which the show doesn't go to the food court. And then they're bringing the food to me.
You can smell the pizza. The tables are getting close enough where you can smell the pizza, though. We're getting real close.
Listen, I can smell pizza from 10 miles, so I don't know who you're trying to get.
I'd rather smell pizza than BO, so I'm all about
That's
it.
fair. Very fair.
You do talk about the Pokemon and like the kind of people that are there. One, if there was like the camera crews there at like these big shows, you would see the amount of kids walking around with backpacks with $20, $30, $40, $50,000 in cash ready to spend it. Is surreal. And then there's one video where Manny texted me one night at like 2:00 in the morning because the guy doesn't sleep. And there's some Pokemon sneaker flipper who's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
And sure as hell, we're all in the background looking doofy as can be. Like, damn it.
You guys were making out in a video where millions of subscribers are watching. It was hilarious.
Well, I'm very sorry that now the internet knows I love my husband. I'm sure there was video of Kai and Brad kissing somewhere too.
Probably, yeah.
At least it wasn't me and Jeremy. That would have been a sight to see.
You made a thirst trap at the
I did. So,
and the way you grabbed me when we were leaving, if somebody caught that on video and without any sort of context, that would look very, very bad as well, my friend. So
that's true. Well, when I was grabbing you, it's funny because Dennis ran over out of nowhere and it was like, Jeremy, I think he got a little jealous that I was getting a little too close to you. So
I don't blame him. I'd be jealous too.
So the card show, right? Let's go back to the card show. I like the experience, like you said, the high end to low end,
Yep.
and that you could get everything you need, because there was people there. You have TNT there, right? And they're doing like their repack, so they have people out buying, so they're looking for high end. But then you have the kids, like you said, the Michigan State fans, the Michigan fans. When I bring Michigan State, Michigan cards to that show, I can't keep them in the showcase because there's true collectors of Michigan State and Michigan fans there. I do find that kind of like, I like it. I like the idea because I'm a big college guy, but no other show is like this. And I like that.
Yeah, and I think it helps that we're in a college town, right? And surprisingly, there's no show in Ann Arbor. There's one in Saline, I think, quarterly, but not in Ann Arbor. So Lansing has that leg up where they can actually have the show in that college town, get a ton of traffic. I always sell a lot of Spartan cards there. There's no doubt about that, and a healthy amount of Wolverines too. So college stuff sells well in Michigan.
Yeah, we were just having that conversation, Manuel, about people collecting college, because that's not something that I look for. We don't have college stuff in our showcases because we just don't buy college stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's cool for the people that do collect that is something that people know they can bring to the Lansing show, and you'll have it easily accessible if you're going to collect, non-professional and you're looking for the college collection, because you don't see that at all the shows.
No, for sure. But Manny hit the nail on the head. There's a huge following for the college stuff, especially, like you find an Iowa Hawkeyes autograph in a $1 box, right? And sure, maybe it's worth $1 here in Michigan, but it might be worth $15 to some collector in Iowa. So, I love digging in the $1 boxes. I'm not against high end. I love adding, the high end pieces that catch eyes in the display cases, but my jam has always been $1 boxes. Mm-hmm. And that's never going to change. I have people that will bring me bulk in that same price range, which works great, but I still get geeked out. And having this as my job, like what I do full time now, I love going to $1 boxes and digging, and Lansing has some of the best $1 boxes, period. So I love it.
We were in Las Vegas for the Mint, and we were at Mrs. Squirt's table, and over came Ryan, card collector too, digging through the boxes. And he's been adamant as long as I've ever consumed any of his content that, there's money to be made there, and you have to support yourself. You have to make a living. And you know what? It's true, because every time I see that guy, he's not going through the showcases trying to buy 4 and 5 figure cards. A couple years ago at our trade night, I was going through our $1 boxes trying to get the best deal possible. And I think that, social media sometimes, leads people to believe that it's just all sexy 5 and 6 figure cards, when in reality, there was cards people left at my table. I threw a top loader on them, sold it for $5-6. That's a hell of a lot better than, haggling with somebody to buy a $500 card and ultimately selling it for $510 after hours of negotiations.
So actually, Dennis has come on here and said that it probably won't be a multi-day show, just because, and his reasoning was really sound, because I was like, oh, it should be. But he talks about how people live close enough to drive to the show. So until it's like something where it's big enough, or if it ever gets big enough to have, people traveling and staying in town to go to the show, he compared it to Shipshewana. We compare shows to Shipshewana around here a lot, because that is the biggest show locally that we have. And but people have to drive to Shipshewana because there's nothing else there. You literally have to drive there, and then you're staying there for the the trade night and the show. But Lansing, there's a lot there. There's a lot of, we only live 35 minutes away. Brad, you're pretty close. You said it's an hour. Yep. A lot of, if you talk to the dealers at the Lansing show, they all live pretty close, within a couple hours. And that's something I think overwhelmingly that people don't consider about Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, is that there are so many collectors in this area. You hear a lot when you were talking about YouTube and social media, you hear a lot about, East Coast, New York and California collectors. The center of the country is gigantic, And we have a ton of collectors. Like, look at the Greenies card show. That's getting gigantic. You know, the Sports Card Spectacular, the Midwest Monster, the Nationals in Chicago. And it's there for a reason, because this is a huge collecting area. And I don't think the Lansing show necessarily has to be multi-day, just because there's so many collectors in this area. They could easily go there spend the whole day, and that's good enough, you know?
Yeah, I tell people this all the time. I don't think there's a region in the United States that is as good for shows as where we're at. And that's no disrespect to the other areas, but just where I'm at. So Kalamazoo, hour to Shipshewana, hour to Grand Rapids, 2.5 hours to Chicago, 2.5 to Detroit, 1 to Lansing, 4 to Cleveland last weekend, right? There's no other region where you can do all those within a 5-hour swing. And most of them are within a 3-hour swing, 2 hours to Fort Wayne, you know? So, and you know, that's a monster show. So
yeah,
it's just amazing. I don't know why anybody would want to leave here if you're already here. Now, it's one thing, you have to deal with the winters and everything. I get that. And a lot of people aren't with that, but it's amazing for the card show scene.
Yeah, but you know what? I think if you took those California folks and threw them on a trade night where you got a blizzard and the power went out, those fools wouldn't be flipping cardboard, but us Midwest people, you know, drove through, risked life and limb to have a trade night.
It is worth talking about, though, because when you're in an area where there's a lot of driving to get to a show, or everybody has to fly in to go to that show, who's bringing dollar boxes when you have to fly? You have to ship that, or it's when you have dealers within a 5-hour or less increment window to get to a show, you're going to get a lot more, you know, bulk tables than you do, you know. I mean, like, even you talked about the Mint, those were mostly showcase tables. There wasn't a lot of dollar boxes. People like Sarah, who drove in, brought theirs, or the local people. Yeah, Manny.
I was almost.
That's that Fanatics money between Courtney traveling across the world and Manny getting a stretch limo. That Fanatics money is being stretched thin over here.
Me and Jeremy did not, or almost didn't make it to the
Listen,
train.
at least you had 4-wheel drive. I was like in a minivan crying the whole way. Like, this is the dumbest thing I ever did.
No. Tell the story the right way. Hey, babe, how's the drive going? It's terrible, Court. It's snowing everywhere. Not by me. Roads are perfect. 5 minutes later, I can't get there.
I didn't say I can't get there. I said I was wrong. The roads are shit, but I'm coming, and I came.
Absolutely amazing how many people showed up that night.
Oh, yeah.
That was the biggest kid scavenger hunt we ever did. And it was after a blizzard with the power out. Everybody was getting stuck in the parking lot. I couldn't believe it. I thought for sure we would have extra leftover stuff. And I ended up having to fill more packs because we had over 300 kids.
It was amazing. It's one of those shows where I'm never surprised with how big the traffic is. And it just constantly climbs up. So Brad and his team do a great job promoting that show.
Do you find it like, because you travel all around the Midwest, do you find, because my most success was I went to Chicago and I was buying Michigan State, like you were saying in the past, like for $1, I was buying Le'Veon Bell autos, RPAs for like $2 and bringing them back. And I was selling them for like $10 because they're like, I mean, they're going for $10. They just couldn't sell them. And I was getting Magic Johnson autos, Charles Woodson. I think that's like the best key we kind of miss about being in the Midwest is you could go region to region and buy at a different region at the Lansing. So you know you're going to Chicago or Indiana here shortly. You could buy Chicago players or someone that's been in Chicago that's known there to sell it at these shows. So I think we have an edge over everyone else in the Midwest.
Yeah, I always try to have a fair amount of local team stuff. So, you know, the Detroit, you know, all the Michigan college teams. And I feel like we have a pretty good following because of that, because people keep coming back because we always have it. And it's not always the easiest stuff to find and to have margins on, but if you can find it, like you said, it's an easy move. If you go, we were in Cleveland last week. So if I find a bunch of Wolverine stuff that nobody wants, you know, bring it back here and it's an easy move. So, yeah.
Yeah, Courtney and I are doing the Skyline Ludic show May 13th, and so we went over to Don's booth before we left and bought as many Chicago Bears and DJ Moore cards as we could possibly get our hands on. Waited in line for like an hour to get comped out in cash and get the heck up out of there.
That's a way to do it. I do the exact same thing. I'll load up before the Chicago shows with the Bear stuff and as much Bulls as I can find, Cubs, all that fun stuff. So
you mentioned that you went. This is your full-time gig, and I want to be mindful of your time because we got something. You're going to hop off, and somebody else is going to hop in. Congratulations to you all. I think anybody who's ever participated in the card space has fantasized in some way about either owning a card shop or doing this full time. So kudos to you for taking the plunge and doing it. How's it going? How's it going thus far? Is it you having a blast? Are you scared? Do you hate it? It's no longer a hobby; it's a job, so it sucks.
It's awesome every day. It really is. It's like living a dream. I never thought people would want to hear my opinions on the hobby, and here I am. I never thought I'd be where I was, where I could, make a living doing this. We took, 5 years kind of building up to this point and making sure that we weren't making bad decisions leading up to it. And, as bad as the pandemic was, when the card, the collectibles market exploded, it helped us get there faster, because everything, dollar cards were now worth 10 for a short time there. So it's been great. Honestly, every day there's sometimes where I just feel like I need to pinch myself that I'm doing this for a living and still really enjoying the hobby. I haven't once thought, it's a job and I've lost the love, like all this stuff behind me is my collection. It's, and I owe part of that to Tim Hank because he turned me on to the sealed stuff, and now it's an addiction that I can't get rid of. So
it's a beautiful hat you have there in the background over your right shoulder.
Let's see that one right.
Yeah, you point it the other way.
There we go.
You're getting there.
Can you see it, Courtney? You were the one that gave me that at the National. So
yeah, I like it. Courtnly, you're muted. Courtney.
I knew I was muted. There's only listen.
Act like you've been there before, Courtney. Good God.
There's only 50 of those in existence. So
one of 50. I like it.
50 very limited hats.
So Brad, you're going to be in Lansing next month?
Yeah, the big 8-day swing right there, right? So Johnny Ford on the 20th of May. Avery Shoebox in Lansing the 27th, and then we go right from there to Shipshewanah's trade night. It's going to be the craziest 8 days probably of my card show life, but we're ready. We're not ready, but we're ready. So
I'm not ready.
No, we're going to definitely be prepping the whole month of May leading up to that.
Yeah,
it's going to be wild. We have Ludex, Johnny Ford, Shipshewanah and Lansing all,
and VCon.
And VCon, and we're going to get back from Vegas on the 9th of May. So I am just
Fanatics money.
It's going to be absolutely wild. It's going to be a wild few days. I almost feel like we should do a vlog about like whether or not we survive it.
I'm sure you will, and I bet you guys will have a great time. I can't wait to follow along and see how you guys do.
Awesome. Well, where can the people follow you?
So we are on Instagram at Hollister Sports Cards. Same on eBay. We're actually Hollister's Cards on Facebook. And also, I can't remember the handle on Twitter, but if you search us there, you'll find us there too.
Yes, and there is Man Cave Sports Card Show is this coming weekend. So we went Lansing, Man Cave, Vegas, Ludex, VCon, Lansing, Johnny Ford, Shipshewanah.
Remember, you committed to the Burbank show too, Courtney. So I'm sure Rob's the card father is going to get on here and plug his damn show too.
Listen, if he wants me there, he can pay for my airplane ticket.
Awesome, Brad. Well, we appreciate the time, man. We look forward to seeing you guys soon, and wish you guys nothing but health, wealth, and success, my man.
Same to you guys. Thanks for having us on.
All right, now for a letdown, we're going to bring on a Cardinals fan.
I didn't even wear my Cardinals hat or anything tonight because I was just trying to be respectful. But
so now we are joined by Jason. I want to make sure I say it. JNN Sports Cards?
That's correct. Yep.
Bam. Nailed it. You too were set up at the Avery Shoebox show. you have been there as long as I've been there, as far as I know. So tell us, how was your experience? How's it going? What was the show vibe for you?
It was great. I talked to some guys at the during the setup for the show, and we were just talking about 178 tables at that show, and at some point it's going to feel, I don't want to say like competitive or anything like that, because it just sounds kind of negative, but like there's a certain number of dollars to go around, and 178 tables strong, it's a great problem. But you hope, like, gosh, I hope I bring the right stuff. And it's ironic. Like, I feel like the more tables that are there, I feel like those vendors keep bringing more buyers with them. So it just becomes busier and busier every month. It's a great problem. I started out, I don't know, Cola Cards. He was in here a few minutes ago, and that was my first transaction of the day. I made a deal with him, and then I brought just a bunch of bulk stuff that I wanted to get out of my basement and move that. And I think I told you Saturday by 9 o'clock in the morning, I was like, this has already been a really great day, and just continued all day. So just can't speak to the quality of the show and the dealers and the people walking, and it's terrific.
You said something that we don't, I've felt that way, and I don't think we've ever talked about it, is when I'm at that show, I truly don't feel like I'm competing with everybody or with anybody. I do feel like it is a strong sense of community, that people look out for each other. Like, hey, you know what? That guy has this card at a better deal than me. I'm high, or hey, go see him. That's the case. Now, I've been to shows where you definitely know it's competitive, where it's like, you're battling, like, in a friendly way, but that there's serious competition. Here, it's almost like, hey, we're all here for the same reason. We're going to have a good time. We're going to make a couple of bucks, have some laughs. And so I thought that's a really good point. And that speaks to the kind of people we have, up here in Michigan.
I actually personally have sent people, like, they'll come to my table and they're like, hey, I'm looking for this card. And I'm like, hey, my guy Gene, I know he has those because I saw them on his table. Or, hey, do you know who's got this kind of card? I'm like, this guy, that guy, and that guy over there, they have them. And I've had people get sent to art, like multiple people. Manny had mentioned this show came over because they're like, oh, Reckless and Manny and Thicc over there, they have soccer cards. And we just didn't bring as much as we usually do because nobody ever asks for them. And of course, this time we're like, oh, nobody ever asks for soccer. So I will always bring soccer to the Lansing show. And you can mark my words, or you want soccer, we will have it. Even if we don't sell it, it'll be there in case somebody asks for it. But it's cool. And I didn't think of that either. And that was like a really good point, Jason, is it does feel like such a sense of community at this show.
You got to give it to Dennis, because he's the one that's bringing these vendors in, and he's handpicking them. So, I mean, he could honestly pick some vendors that, are the crotchety people when you walk up, kind of like what Jeremy says, and they're sitting and don't talk to people, just eating the whole time. Like, you got to give it up to Dennis for that. It's because I'm saying this because he's mad at me about the food court comment, so I'm trying to be on good terms with Dennis. But Jason, how'd you get that primetime spot right next to the store? I was like, man,
that's what I'm talking about, man.
I was,
Dennis is a really nice guy, I guess. No, and to your point, Manny, if I can just back up for just a second. I stop in the shop periodically, and Dennis has had that conversation with me. Like, I want everybody to do well. Yeah, I could bring in 250 to 300 tables to that show, but I want to make sure that I'm bringing in the right people. I want to make sure that the quality of the show does not suffer. So again, like you said, to Dennis's credit there, he's very mindful of that, and I think his approach is very intentional there. Regarding the primetime spot, like I said, Dennis is a really nice guy, so that helps. My sons and I, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, we started heading over there the day before to help set up, and so set up the tables, chairs, tablecloths, and whatnot. And with that, they're like, where do you want to set up? I'm like, well, wherever. I'm happy to be here. This is something fun. And part of it for me was, teaching my kids, like, this stuff doesn't just set itself up, right? It takes hard work, it takes effort, and anything worth having in life, you got to work for it. So that was the original intent. But I think just building that relationship, relationships in the hobby, in your career, and whatever it is, relationships are so important. And, I've just been blessed to be surrounded by a lot of really good people.
So, Jason, what you're telling me is, as long as I continue to stay after the show and fold tablecloths, we're going to be all right, Court. We're going to get better spaces. I'm listening to what Jason's saying. I'm going to keep
I like our
folding them
table. I don't
independently.
want a different table.
Dennis is going to give us a good spot. You can always do better.
I don't know
want like an
When I
elevated
walk into
platform
the
or
show
something.
and I turn and I look, I can see the Reckless banner at the back of the show. I'm like, oh, there we are.
Do you
I can
hear
see
him?
it.
He wants an elevated, like
He wants this a stage, a platform,
yeah, just in the middle.
Thank
where
you.
it's
a
just
throne, perhaps. We'll
Yeah,
get
a
some
throne.
put on.
I don't know what I should do for a Cubs fan, but I mean,
It's typical
Come on,
Cubs fan
man.
behavior.
Come
Typical Cubs fan
on.
behavior.
That's I like Jason.
Always
Come
greater than
on.
they actually are. They always think they're greater than they
Oops.
actually are.
Ooh. Jason, White Sox or Cubs?
Cardinals. He's a Cardinals fan.
No. Who does he prefer?
I mean, I like the Tigers too, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, one thing I will say, I've been somewhat of a Lansing Lugnuts fan for a long time. I used to be affiliated with the Cubs, or the Cubs used to be affiliated with them. So I don't hate the Cubs like most Cardinals fans. I don't, not my favorite team, but I really don't mind them.
You're just trying to be nice. We hate them. We like the White Sox, right, Courtney?
So personally, I am a White Sox fan, but like everyone was like, I thought you liked the White Sox because I had Cubs stuff on at the show. And I don't buy myself things a lot. Jeremy buys me Cubs stuff all the time. So I have Cubs hats and Cubs t-shirts and Cubs sweatshirts. And my parents are both Cubs fans. So my mom gives me Cubs stuff all the time. So I actually have like a lot of Cubs stuff because other people give that to me. I would never purchase it for myself. But I don't have any White Sox stuff. So I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to, good guys wear black. So I got to go get some good guys stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then all you will see is our social media is filled with Courtney standing next to the 2016 World Series Cubs championship trophy.
I was super pregnant and we were at a Fire game. I wasn't there to see that. It was just there. And of course I was going to go look at it. Who was like, oh, a World Series trophy? Psh. No, I wanted to go see it.
You're not going to see Courtney publicly putting on the White Sox stuff because she doesn't want to go down that rabbit hole, because the amount of games we've been to, the amount of stuff with her in Cubs gear will come back and haunt her.
Here's the thing. The last time we went to an actual Cubs game, it was a Crosstown Classic, and my Sox spanked the crap out of his Cubs, and then he got smashed and started pulling up road things in the middle of the road, and I had to drive him home, and then he lost his phone. So he was very sad, and he could talk all the crap he wants, but that's what happened.
Allegedly.
I'm trying to, Jason. You guys are arguing with each other.
Sorry.
Jason, you said you're a Lugnuts fan. Do you see, because I do, like, when I was a kid, I mean, watching those games, and then they're affiliated by the Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette was on the team. Now they're the A's. It's kind of right now. But do you ever see, like, minor league cards, like Vladimir Guerrero's, Bo Bichette's being, like, top market? Like, because there is Bowman first, but they're not in their minor league jersey. But it could be for the Lansing. I see Courtney Shea. The Lansing market is.
I agree with her. I mean, I think there's a market for sure. I mean, if I see a Bo Bichette or a Vladdy Guerrero card in the Lugnuts uniform, I mean, that's pretty cool. I'll pick it up, but I don't think there'll ever be the market for those as much as there is the major league team. But yeah.
I don't ever see minor league cards or college cards being top of market cards for any player ever. I don't care how much people collect college cards, and that is a hill I will die on.
Jason,
I'll be there with you.
State stuff. I know he does, like some Kenneth Walker, some Kirk Cousins. I know he has some.
He has a really cool Gale Sayers card too.
Yes, I do. So my older son, is actually a big Kirk Cousins fan. So actually, a lot of my Kirk Cousins stuff that I have does funnel down to him. So
I love
yeah.
it. I love it.
So how was the show for you? What was moving? What did you have in your showcase? What didn't move that you thought was going to move?
You know, it was, I would say football was pretty strong for me. And, you know, similar to what Brad was saying, and actually Brad came over to my table, and, you know, the $2 box was just kind of went bananas for me. Really a lot of football, you know, quarterbacks. I was surprised, you know, this again, the amount of people that were there to buy at the show, not just dealers, but just in general. I mean, there were cards that I'd had in my showcase for, you know, 5 or 6 months that moved on Saturday. Now, I'm a pretty small fish. For the most part, I set up the Lansing show every month, and that's it. We'll be at the Man Cave show next weekend, so that'll be fun. But for the most part, it's one show a month, and so, you know, I certainly do some stuff online to try and turn inventory, but there's just some stuff. It's like, you know, you just got to find the right buyer for it, and was able to do that this weekend. So it was a terrific show all day.
Did you have any pickups from this show?
Yeah. And you know, I go into it thinking like, okay, I really want to pick this up. I really want to pick this up. And every time I fail, it's great. It must be because I'm a Cardinals fan. But, you know, my kids are, well, my older one is like a go-getter. Like, he cannot sit still. He's walking the floor until he can't walk anymore. And then my wife comes and picks him up and takes him home. My younger one is 11, so it's like I don't want to leave him in high pressure situations. So it's like, you know, I see a lot of people, you know, that can leave maybe their older kids in charge of the table while they walk around, or maybe they have a buddy that comes to the show with them. I can't really do that as much, but what I've learned is like some of the stuff that you see coming across the table is just, it's great. It's unique. You never know what you're going to get. So, like Akil Badu, he was a guy for the Tigers who went insane for a little bit. Was it last year or the year before? I don't even remember now. And then just kind of dropped off. I ended up buying a 101 of his on Saturday. Like, no intention, but just the right deal came along, and it's like, cool. Some cool patches, some cool autos. Just, yeah. So nothing that really hit the PC hard, but just a lot of cool stuff.
And that's what's cool
That's
about.
funny.
Like, go ahead, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Manny.
No, that's what's cool about the Avery show is like kind of Brad was saying is there's a lot of dealers there willing to buy. Like, because you go to shows and there's some dealers that are just like, I'm just looking to sell. But it seems like probably like 90% of the tables there are waiting for a card to buy. And I love that about the show.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the strategy? Because I'm always curious about this. Like, we've really ramped up the amount of shows that we're doing. Last year, it was like maybe 4 to 6 shows a year. And this year, we've already done, 6, 7, 8. And because we have visibility to the shows that we're going to be doing in different parts of the country, that kind of plays into like, okay, we'd like to scoop some stuff up for Chicago. And it's stuff that we probably don't want to hold long. We want to get it and move it, get our money and put that money to work. Knowing that you're only doing this show and the Stanton show, like, what's the strategy? Is it just like, is it sport? Is a certain player? Like, talk us through like what your mindset is going into these shows, because I know there's people in here that message us and say, hey, I'm doing my first ever show, or hey, I just did my first show. Can we have some feedback? And when they go online to look, all they see is somebody, they see Mealy Pops, turning 7 figures in a day at the National. And that's just like, okay, how do I go from a $1 box to that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. For me, this was something that I got back into rather, something to do with my kids. Pandemic started, and I started with them a little bit before that, but it was something that we could do to connect. And so it was originally just intended to be something for fun. And then, we started getting to know more people, right? Community again. And just it's like, well, this might be kind of fun. Set up at a show, we'll see what happens here. But I think the rule of thumb for me is, you know, to buy or trade for stuff that if I get stuck with it, I'm not really stuck. Like, I like it. It's okay. But also try and pick up things that can move. But it's at the end of the day, it's a fun side hobby thing that we do, and we're just trying to keep it like that, keep it light.
I feel like the Lansing show is cool too because there are a lot more people set up with your mindset there than like the hardcore flipping mindset. It's a lot of like people who are like, oh, I collect and I'm just here, like I got one table and I'm just here to kind of sell some stuff and maybe buy something else cool. It's not like, oh, I have to hustle, grind. It is a lot more of like you're literally there to have a good time.
Mm-hmm. And two, part of it Saturday was we had a really strong start in the morning, and that really allowed me to be more flexible. Because one thing with the Lansing show that I've noticed is there are a lot of kids going around doing trade up challenges, trying to sell cards to get their next whatever they want. And it's like, I want to help those kids. I have 2 kids that are running around, doing the same exact thing, and I want to help kids too. So if a kid comes up and says, hey, I really like that card, can we make a deal? It's like, yeah, I'm going to help you get into the card you want to get into. And it makes it fun for everyone, and it really helps that next generation. It's, on a very, very, very small scale, trying to do something like what you guys do down at Shipshewana, which is just amazing.
Jason, what's funny is so we've been very fortunate that sometimes we share space with Manny, and Manny's awesome because he's transparent about everything he's going through, which is awesome. And he had reached a spot where he was like really starting to really like have some success, flip overs, inventory, kind of get unstuck. And the last Shipshewana show, there was the blizzard. We almost didn't go. We were almost like, well, if the power's out, nothing's going to be going on. And then we saw like a picture on social media when like we got internet for just a brief moment, like, wow, there's a lot of people there. We went. And Manny ended up making his show like with an hour left to spare at trade night. And when you said about like that pressure being gone early in the morning and therefore you're able to help people, the next day I have never seen Manny. He was just wheeling and dealing. Somebody'd say, hey, $20. Yep. $10. Yep. 15. Yep. 12. Yep. And I just remember watching it from a different perspective because I know what it's like to be in that moment, like where at this point, everything's gravy. So let's go ahead and let's continue to throw that good juju, that good karma out there. But do you remember that, Manny, when you got to that point that next day and you were just like, you're like, man, if anybody even talks to me, I'm giving them cards. Like, hi, Manny, here's $100, Sam. Hi, Manny.
I might have gave away some of your cards. I was so excited. No, I'm joking. No, I was. It was good because when you make a good trade and like you're up, you just feel like you need to get back. So when kids were coming along, I was passing them autos. I know I had I think a Grant Hill auto. I was just like, here, you got a Grant Hill jersey, here, take the card. It makes it a lot of fun. So it is great to do well early. I would say that.
It's a great feeling though when you make a kid's show because I remember what it was like. Nobody ever gave me anything as a kid. And when you can hook a shout out Jason from DCI for that. When you can do that to somebody, that's a really good feeling.
Absolutely.
Well, how come no one gives me trade up challenges? Why can't I go and do?
Because you're a grown-ass man.
I tell the dealer, hey, I want to do a trade up challenge. They look at me funny.
Because I know your facial hair grows in all pre-pube adolescent, but you're actually an adult man.
And
I
for
want to
me,
do a trade up challenge.
Like I've seen your cards, and you couldn't do a trade up challenge with me because I don't have anything that's like trading up for you. So.
That was nice.
No, you must have been looking at Jeremy and Courtney's.
I don't know.
Were you selling the rated rookie cards or the shirts?
The t-shirts?
Yeah.
So no. Those okay. So there's another gentleman that sets up just either right next to me or 2 tables away from me. He had those made a while ago, and he's really cool with my kids, and so he's like, "Hey, help me sell these. For whatever you sell, we'll split it." And so my boys are sitting there at the next table over trying to sell some of those. But yeah,
That's awesome.
I was super bummed because by the time I got over there, they only had like extra and two extra large left. And I know I'm hanging out on the Too Thicc crew, but I don't wear a 2X t-shirt. yeah, I'll work on it.
So real quick, while we're talking about the kids, I want to share a story. I had a dad was looking at a Jaren Jackson Jr. rookie card we had in the showcase, and his dad was looking at it, looking up comps and all this stuff, and his son was standing there, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on, little guy? What's your favorite team?" And he's like, "I like the Bulls," and I was like, "Bam, my guy, that's awesome." I'm like, "Court, see the future's safe with these young children. We've got some smart ones out there." And so you're in a great mood. So I opened up the showcase and gave him a PSA 10 Patrick Williams, like an optic purple or pink or something probably like a $30, $40 card. And the kid was kind of like, I don't think he was a Patrick Williams fan, but I think he was happy to get a PSA 10 slab. And then I recognized that the dad looked down and he was like, "Oh, that's nice." And then he pulled out his wallet. I'm like, no. I wasn't giving the kid a card to entice you to buy. He ended up buying the card. And I felt weird. I felt really weird because I was just trying to do right by the kid and the parent. And then I think the dad felt obligated to buy from me. So it was, sometimes you can't be
if
too
that
cool.
dad's on here listening, sorry.
Yeah, Jeremy's a piece of poop, and tricking dads to buy cards for their kids.
Listen,
I promise you, I lost. The card was like the card was like $20 below comp, so you could turn around and flip it, and the kid got like a free $40 card. It'll be all right.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. I give away free cards all the time. Never once have the parents bought anything from me, so that doesn't work. And hopefully all of my children are sleeping this time, Lauren, because yeah, that was it. She looked so scary in the background once I realized she was there in our last episode of Hobby Night School. That's what she's referencing.
So before we get out of here, Jason, let me ask you something. You've done the show. What's something you as a dealer try to do to improve the experience for people who are coming up to your table? Because I feel like this show gets bigger and better each and every time that I'm there. And I think this last show was evidenced by the foot traffic and the amount of money in the room. What are you doing to make, whether it's being welcoming to people walking up, whether it's flipping the inventory, whether it's, having a little showmanship? What are some things that you can share with people who are maybe aspiring to set up at a show?
I mean, I think relationships, community is number one. People walk up to your table, smile, say hi. I always ask people if they're looking for anything in particular, and 99 times out of 100, they're going to say, "You know what? No, I'm just here to browse," which, I mean, that's what I love to do too. But I just don't want to send someone on a wild goose chase if they're looking for, one particular player or anything like that. I feel like it's a responsibility almost to make sure that the inventory is turning over. I'm offering something new and something fresh every month. Now, it's not going to be 100% necessarily because I'm not, doing shows every weekend or anything like that. But, trying to have what is relevant right now. And then just offering good values, I think I was maybe a YouTube short or something you guys did a couple days ago about, how do I price cards and ending up 40% over comps. That doesn't do anything good for anyone. You're not going to sell anything, and people are just going to be like, that was disappointing. So, just trying to offer a good product, reasonable price, and it's like McDonald's, smiles are free. So just try and have fun with it.
I like that.
Awesome.
Jeremy, I got a good one.
Go ahead, sir.
Me and you, we put our Lucho mask on, and we just wrestle in the middle. That would be some experience, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and then Dennis can be our ring girl in the heels. Because that's something that happens there. They do wrestling. Dennis gets in the ring.
Yes. Did you hear about this, Jason?
I did. Yeah.
He gets in his ring and his thong. With his,
for sure, the next time they're doing one of those, I'm going. I don't care what else is happening. I'm I don't care what is going on. The next time they have wrestling in the middle of the Lansing Mall,
Exactly.
that's where my ass is gonna be.
Me and
And I'm
Jeremy-
going to support Dennis, just like how I'm like cutting a deal and he comes up and he whispers to me or he caresses the back of my neck. I want to do that when he's got his ring girl outfit on.
I like that.
He told me he wears the booty shorts, so
We could wrestle at the food court.
I'm gonna give him the number to my waxing lady so he can get his little butt cheeks waxed before he wears those shorts.
Oh,
Yeah, because you know Dennis got that cake.
You know he does.
Jason's like, I'm gonna get away from that store. I don't want to be by that spot anymore.
Jason, where can the people follow you, my man?
So we're JNNcollectors on Instagram, at JNNcollectors on Twitter, JNNcollectors on YouTube. Pretty much everything there. That's about it.
Awesome, man. We really appreciate you taking time to jump on. The show truly wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for people like you who have been there setting up, treating people right, cutting deals. You've always been more than you've welcomed us and you've made us feel at home, and for that we're truly grateful.
I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here. Just a lot of fun, and seeing you guys is terrific. The presence that you offer on social media, and it's like, wow, that's Reckless Cards. The first time I saw you, I'm like, this is cool. This is so cool. Again, just a sign that the show is growing, and everything that you guys do for the community is just incredible. So thank you.
I appreciate you. You were the first person ever in my whole life to, like, as I was walking through somewhere, to be like, Reckless Cards. So shout out for that, because that was like such a cool moment for me personally, and I'll never forget it. So
I was like, Courtney, who the hell's that weirdo? What the hell's he talking about? I kid.
No.
it was very exciting for me.
That's better than people yelling cocaine at Jeremy. So we'll take
That is. I mean, off the record, I love it when people yell cocaine. The fact that it's in front of children and it's like referencing a movie that people don't get and the weird looks kind of adds to it. But
you know how awkward it is when they're doing a Shipshawana kids night or the trade or the scavenger hunt, and Courtney has like a bunch of kids around the table and someone yells cocaine, and Jeremy.
It's always
has
the guys
to
from
wave.
Johnny Ford. They come running over to yell cocaine at Jeremy as loud as they can, and I'm like, there are children.
as I'm giving the kid like a repack or something, and then the mom just like kind of grabs it and puts it back, like, nah.
He can't
Let's
have
keep
it.
it
Why is
moving.
it in a black Ziploc? What's
Yeah.
Here's some candy. Oh.
All right, man. Well, bring it home, my friend.
All right, Jeremy, what can the people do? You forgot to do your
Kids are awake.
I can hear that up here.
And with that, make sure you go follow Jason. Make sure you go follow Brad. They're good people. In the hobby, people.
Avery's.
And
Yes.
who? What happened?
I said follow
Sorry.
Avery's.
Yeah, follow Avery's. Follow. There's Man Cave that's next weekend. We have Johnny Ford's. We have what is that? Courtney, come on, Skyline. We have
Skyline,
Mint in
Luddick.
here. We have Luddick's in here. There we go. Lauren from Mint. We have everyone in here. So I do appreciate you guys listening. Without you guys, there's no Too Thicc. Without Courtney, there's no Too Thicc. And without our wonderful guests, there's no Too Thicc. And I hope you guys enjoyed your hobby release. And we will talk soon. Peace.
Smash.